name is Andrea Miller, and I am the founding board member and the executive director of Center for Common Ground. And okay, we've got people coming in. I am loving it. Tonight, we are going to be talking about our congressional primaries that are currently going on in Georgia. Virginia has 45 days of early voting, so Virginia is voting now. And we will soon be launching our North Carolina campaign that will be pledged to vote. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Center for Common Ground, we operate a number of different campaigns. Our main campaign, where we are postcarding, phone banking, texting, and even canvassing BIPOC voters of color, is called Reclaim Our Vote. We also have an intern program called, actually now they've rebranded their Students for Voting Justice. We have our vote equality campaign, which is working on completing the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. And I've already seen a number of people join us who are with our democracy centers. So we are so delighted that everybody is here tonight. And so let me get going. The mission of Center for Common Ground is a very simple one. We were founded to educate and empower underrepresented voters in voter suppression states to engage in elections, and when elections are over, advocate for their voting rights. Together, we can build a democracy that prioritizes the voices of all people. Now, I always like to go back to 2020, since that was our last presidential year. In 2020, we had 44,000 volunteers, and we contacted 14 million voters of color. We sent 9.4 million postcards, 2.9 million text messages, and made 1.7 million phone calls. Well, this is 2024, and the numbers have gotten bigger, and the stakes have gotten a lot higher. So in 2024, we now have 75,000 volunteers. We expect that probably by the time we get to September, October, we will be at 85,000. Our goal this year is that we will contact 18 million voters of color. We will send 12.5 million postcards, 3.5 million text messages, and make 2.5 million phone calls. So that is what we are hoping to do. All right, I've got a couple of guest speakers coming in, so that's great. Now, for our postcard campaigns, Nancy or Carrie, do you want to take postcards? And then I do have another slide where I've got all the numbers, so I can handle the numbers.
Go for it, Nancy.
Sure. So we postcarded Georgia for the primary, and we sent about 410,000 postcards almost to Black voters who are already registered. And we're finishing up postcarding in Virginia. We've sent almost all of them out. Most of the addresses were assigned. We've got about 340,000 voters. And we just started a Pledge to Vote campaign in North Carolina to the Black voters, 963,000 Black voters in North Carolina. And then the first day that it went live, which was a couple of days ago, I think we gave out about 250,000 addresses. So that's pretty good. So we're on a roll,
I
and that's the one we want people to help with. It's, Andrew can talk more about the campaign, but you can write postcards all the way till July 1st.
Yes, yes. So our postcards are literally flying out the door. Our original plan was that we would launch the North Carolina Pledge to Vote on Friday. We had the data loaded, we were ready to go, so we launched sooner. So if you want to participate in any of our campaigns, you can go to our website, centerforcommonground.org/postcarding. Oh, I see a number of people that I know from North Carolina. Now, our phone banks have been running for a couple of weeks as well. And we have phone banks. We are going to be finishing up Georgia on Friday. Friday is the last day of early voting. Virginia has begun early voting. We started on May 3rd. The Virginia election is actually on June 18th. So the Virginia phone banks are actually live now, and they will run until June 17th, when we will end those phone banks. All right, now, some interesting details. I've been following what we've been able to do with our postcard campaigns, and I am very, very, very excited. As Nancy said, we finished up the Georgia congressional primary campaign. We were working in CD6 and CD9. We had a total of 409,000 addresses. We distributed 407,000 of those 409 addresses. Now, for the Virginia congressional primary, which is in June, we had 336,000 addresses. We have already distributed 322,000. For the North Carolina Pledge to Vote, we have 963,000 addresses, and literally in basically the first day and a half, 261,863 addresses have been given away. And my guess is that number is even higher, because that was the number on Tuesday. Now, for those of you who postcard for Center for Common Ground, I am pleased, I am excited, I am thrilled to debut our brand new 2024 postcard with artwork by Amir Kadar. So what we have done is we are now going to the artists who were part of our Artists for ERA campaign, and our favorite artists. We are asking them to literally do art for us that supports voting. And so this is Amir Kadar's work. These postcards are available through the Sir Speedy shop. And so when you go to postcards, I don't know if Gabe has them up on the website yet. They will be up very, very shortly. These will be postcards you can use for any of our 2024 campaigns. All right, now, work that we are doing, and I'm going to move through this rather quickly. In Virginia for the primary, Virginia has 865,000, and these are Black voters only. And so the Black voters are 15% of the Virginia registered voting population. 99,000 of those Black voters live in CD2. CD2, as you can see, is our oceanfront district. And for those of you who really, really follow politics, you may be aware that that was Elaine Gloria's seat. So we are currently working in the primary there, and it is our goal to win that seat back. Now, our phone banking report, as I mentioned, our phone banks have been up and running. So far for Georgia, we've made 19,130 calls. We leave messages because we have found that by leaving messages, there's really only about a 2 to 2.5% turnout drop off between people that we actually speak with and people where we leave a message. Now, Gabe has gone through and looked at what did people tell us they were going to do. Well, 738 people told us that they were going to vote on election day. 404 people told us that they were going to vote early in person, and we left 6,000 messages. So we only have a couple days more calling. We'll be calling Georgia tomorrow as well. Their election day will be Tuesday, May 21st. And then in Virginia, we staggered when the call started since Georgia votes first. In Virginia, we made 4,500 calls. We've left 711 messages. 209 people have committed to vote on election day, and 41 have committed to vote early in person. All right. And everybody who is on the call, you will get these slides. You know how I love my numbers, all the details of calls that were made and how many calls are available. There are additional counties in CD2. These are the ones that are currently up and available. Now, I'm going to do a very quick introduction of Georgia. Georgia has 2.5 million Black voters. 34% of the registered voters in Georgia are Black. And right now in the primary, we are working in 2 congressional districts around Atlanta. CD6, which is over on the left side, and CD13, which is right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I want to bring up one of our special guests, Mr. Richard Rose and Mr. Ray McClendon. So Richard, I'm going to get you spotlighted, and I'm going to do the same thing for Mr. Ray. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am going to be very excited to hear about what is the state of the great state of Georgia from people who are on the ground.
Listen, I appreciate it, Andrew, and hello to everybody. We are still in the mode that we established in 2020 of collaboration and connection, existing constituency for a voter turnout, focusing on races such as those that you illustrated, where the lower races can drive up turnout for the presidential race in November. Ray, turn over you.
Yeah, I just want to say that the state of the race right now is that early voting turnout has been very light, anywhere between 5 and 8% so far. We have one more day of early voting left tomorrow. So we're continuing to push for early voting. And of course, election day is next Tuesday, the 21st. So we'll continue our efforts to get folks out tomorrow and then have a push over the weekend for election day. Of course, you know, there are critical issues in these communities that we are targeting in those districts that you described. Healthcare, specifically reproductive healthcare, is a top priority, especially for our women of color, which are predominant in those two districts. And we continue to also look at not only criminal justice, affordable housing, and continue to try to get the message out on how important their voices are to be heard in this election, given how critical it is for the future of not just those freedoms, but all freedoms in the people of color community. You know, right now there's a lot of apathy. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and that's what we're fighting. So we look at I look at the primary season as kind of like the preseason. If you were in a sports league, the NBA or NFL, and there are preseason games where you kind of figure out, get the kinks out and figure out how weak or strong your team is, so you can get ready for the regular season. And we are figuring out that we've got some serious issues with apathy based upon the turnout we've seen, with the misinformation and disinformation, especially among the Gen Z voters, as to what really should be driving their decisions. And I won't try to get into all of them now. Many of you know what some of them are. I can speak more to that if anybody has any questions, but we know that we've got our work cut out, but we're still in the early going. We're in the preseason, and the real season will start over the summer as we get our messaging down to address some of these specific issues. And we work on expanding our connection to these communities using our coalition that we built, as Richard alluded to, over the last 4+ years, with the great help of the Center for Common Ground and the technology platform that the Center for Common Ground has graciously allowed us to partner into. And we know that we can make a difference, but it is truly going to be an uphill struggle, and it's going to take all hands on deck.
One of the comments I wanted to make is I was amazed when I used ActToVote and looked at the Georgia ballot. I was nearly overwhelmed by the number of offices that voters are going to have to vote for. And so when I originally looked at your ballot, we added a line in your Georgia script where we say justice is on the ballot with races for sheriff and judges. There are other races, but again, in trying to keep the script contained, can you speak to that a little bit? The ballot is huge.
So in Georgia, the judicial races are nonpartisan, but they moved them to the primary day away from November, and in order to suppress the voter turnout with regard to these positions. Georgia's law requires, the Constitution requires that judges are elected, but the trick is sitting judges retire before their term is up, allowing the governor to appoint the judges. And as we can see across the country, these judges, particularly local ones, are very political. Justice is not blind. She got big glasses on and she sees everything. And that's what we are faced with here. We try to mounting effort. But as you say, the ballot is so long, it is tiring for people who are just not very much engaged. If they are a casual voter, as we call them sometimes, I mean, they just don't get to the end of the ballot, and that is an obstacle that we continue to face.
And then you couple that with the redistricting
Right.
that occurred, where you had substantial changes in the voting for different congressional districts and then different, not only at the congressional level, but also at the county commission level. And so those changes have really confused voters. Voters who have voted in the last 4 or 5 cycles, that means 8 to 10 years for one elected official, now is voting for somebody different. So they're showing up at the polls looking for a familiar name, and they've got new names. So, a part of the issue here is going to be, going into the fall, is going to be voter education, which working with you all as a partner will be critical to get the plan to vote and the understanding that you need to go and look up your ballot and make sure you're clear on who it is that are the candidates for a particular office based upon the redistricted precinct that you are now in. That is a big challenge, especially around Metro Atlanta.
And we know on election day, this is also going to be an issue with this very long ballot, because Georgia tends to have these 4, 5, 7-hour lines when you've got a relatively short ballot. Once we put in a ballot that is as long as this ballot, what are there? 28, 30 offices that people are going to be voting for. And then for a lot of people, there will be the shock of, I don't know any of these congressional candidates. I thought I was going to be voting for. That's one of the reasons we put ActiVote in all of our scripts, trying to encourage people, look up what district you're in, see who's actually running, make your sample ballot in ActiVote and bring it with you. That'll work for our younger voters. It may be a little too much for our older voters. We're going to need to come up with another solution.
And have a plan to vote early. You can resolve many issues if you plan to vote early. If you wait to vote on election day, if you have problems, and we've seen this in the past, people don't know the rules about provisional ballots and so forth, the longer lines, and people will get frustrated. I give you an example. I had someone share with me the other day that they voted early and there was no one there, and it took them 5 minutes to actually scan and cast the ballot. So, that's the system that we now use. So imagine if they were voting on election day and you got 100 people in that precinct and they're having problems with the scanning system that they have incorporated. People will be frustrated. So a part of our strategy going into the fall will be make a plan, and that plan should include early voting.
One of the other things that I love about what you've done in Georgia is, Richard, years ago, you had the foresight to write a program called Ride to the Poll and partner with Georgia for the People's Agenda to make sure that throughout the entire state of Georgia, people, if they needed a ride, could sign up and they could get a ride.
Right. Yeah. So, it started actually for the 2008 election, just a website. And so now we advance, it's obviously online, but also a mobile app that we can send the ride request to a driver. In particular, driver can accept it or or rejected, in which case we can reassign, but it's sort of like a Uber before Uber got here.
Yes, yes, yes. Free Uber for voting. I
Right.
love it. I love it. I love it. Exactly. John, Nancy, do we have any other questions in the chat that I need to ask Richard and Ray?
I see one. Do you ever refer people to the Ballotpedia Who's on My Ballot site?
Oh, I grabbed that one. No, not since we have Active Vote, because Active Vote is interactive. Ballotpedia is just, it does have a lot of information, but the other part of Active Vote is every bill that's in your state legislature, all of your existing elected officials, all the websites and all the social media for every candidate that's running, and you can create a sample ballot. That is really why we use Active Vote now, rather than referring people to Ballotpedia, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat again. It is Active Vote, Act I Vote. It is a product. Yes.
And Andrea, can you, can you address, people are always saying, what about the blue voter guide or Democratic Party guides? Can you address why we don't use those?
Well, number one, we don't use Democratic Party guides because we are nonpartisan. So we do not ever refer people to Party A or Party B. We only use things that are nonpartisan. What I do love about Yay Blue Voter Guide is Blue Voter Guide gives voters a lot more detailed information about the candidates. So we do use Blue Voter Guides, but again, there's so much more in Active Vote. And what we want to do is bring people along with everything that is going on. We are in primary election season now. And then when the election is over, then a lot of people just stop. With Active Vote, every bill that is in their legislature is there. And they have an opportunity to indicate, yes, I would vote for this bill, or no, I would vote against it. And then they can see, how did their electeds vote on that bill? Did they vote yes and agree with them, or did they vote no? So it begins teaching people about what is going on in your legislature. It's also teaching people about civics. And since we don't teach civics anymore, I really like it when I get something that helps with that. All right, do we have anything else? Yeah. And then I've
Yes.
got a great comment from Cynthia Wallace. Knowing more about the candidates is the number one reason the New Rural Project uses in our polling that would make a person, here's in our polling that would make a person vote. We hear a number of folks saying, well, I didn't vote because I didn't know anything at all about the candidates. So whatever we can do to help voters know about candidates is very important. All right, Carrie, I think you had something else, another question.
Well, I saw the question about one Georgia organization warning voters they can't take their phones into the voting booths. So they need to take a paper copy of their ballot choices with them. Is that true? That seems very extreme to me.
Well, I think the law says that you can't use your phone.
Right. Okay.
Right, meaning taking a picture.
Right.
But okay, so if you want to look at your phone because you have Active Vote on your phone, is that gonna?
No, you can't, they ask you to put your phone away, take your earbuds out, the whole 9 yards when you walk into the precinct.
Oh, interesting. So people need to write out their choices, maybe?
Well,
Yep.
you need to study your choices before you go in.
Right.
But
Right.
you can
Wow.
take a paper. I mean,
Paper, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
but no electronic devices.
right.
Yeah, and in Virginia, the rule is you just can't take pictures. They don't make you turn your phone off or do anything. You just can't take pictures. Interesting. All right. Richard and Ray, thank you so very, very much. Yes, you can print your ballot choices from ActiveVote. Thank you so very much.
And thank you for the wonderful partnership that we've had. We could not do the work that we do without having such a wonderful partner that helps us to put this platform to work and execute what we do on the ground. It's been a wonderful partnership. I'm looking forward to the future.
And it confirms what we all know, that collaboration works.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We are now, and hopefully you can stay. We will be bringing up Team Unity, and you'll get a chance to meet Team Unity as it's forming in North Carolina. So what I want to do next is, let me see, Jocelyn is here. I want to bring up Jocelyn Nolly and let Jocelyn introduce herself. And Jocelyn is one of the wonderful folks that I met in North Carolina, in Mecklenburg County. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Hi, welcome everyone. Let me make sure. Can you all hear me correctly?
Yes,
I
we
sound
hear
okay?
you
Okay,
fine.
Oh,
great. I'm sorry, Rosalind, were you trying to say, was someone trying to say something? I thought I heard Rosalind.
No,
Okay,
you're good, Jocelyn.
I'm good to go. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jocelyn Nolly. I play several roles here in Charlotte. For today's discussion, I am I would like, I don't like the word leader, but I am a part of the wonderful coalition Team Unity here in Charlotte. We are, to quote Ray and Richard, to use the football analogy, we here in Charlotte are in preseason. Maybe even we're still at camp. We had a wonderful meeting tonight, and we are working with several community organizations to solidify our efforts in Team Unity. I am one of many. I'd like to shout out my friend Rosalind Allen Jacobs, who's really been helping us, and of course, Andrea, your organization has been amazing. But we're getting our group off. Yeah, right?
There
We're
she
getting
is.
things off the ground here, and we're very much excited to be a part of this organization. So we're in camp, Ray and Richard. We're moving to the preseason, and we will be ready to go, full-fledged, game ready, face on in October when our early voting starts. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, so delighted to hear from you, Jocelyn. And now the woman who has been getting and finding the people and bringing us together and getting meetings together in the background, Rosalind Allison Jacobs. Rosalind, thank you so very much for joining us.
my pleasure. It's a labor for sure, but it's a labor of love and a labor that's really driven by a sense of urgency that we all share about what's at stake here. As Jocelyn said, we had a great meeting tonight. I think the right people were in the room, and we finally have folks taking leadership around the pillars of work that have to happen. I have to say, I'm especially excited about the youth vote, the youth activists who were present tonight, who are organizing with Eric Cohen's support to target. They are getting out and talking to young folks who are disengaged and discouraged and disaffected, and they're just doing a fabulous job. We are really excited about the work that they're going to do for us.
I ditto that,
Wonderful.
Osland. Definitely, our young people are taking charge.
All right, I love that. I love that. That is so what we need. And like Richard and Ray said, this is an all-in effort. I see a number of other North Carolinians that are on the phone. I've seen a couple of names that I haven't seen since 2022. Eric, you were the man behind the scenes. Eric, I'm going to add you to the spotlight, and I want you to say hello.
Hello. It's nice to see everyone. You can clearly tell by my rock and roll t-shirt, I was not expecting to be on camera. But thank you,
We are
Andrea.
informal here, Eric. We did not need you to be formally dressed. So thank you very, very much. So since I've got Eric and Rosalind and Jocelyn here, and we've got some of our most dedicated activists, and crazy thing thinks I'm raising my hand again, which I'm not. Talk with my hands, quite confusing. All right, team, do we have any questions for our North Carolina team? Oh, right, Yvette, hello. Yes, yes, yes. Let me, let's see, where is Yvette? Is your camera's
I'm on-
not on?
No, I was gonna, okay, I'll put it on.
Right, because I was
All right,
going, why can't I add you to the spotlight?
There you can see me.
she is.
Hi, I'm Yvette Townsend Ingram. Yeah, hi, my name is Yvette Townsend Ingram. I am a happy participant of Team Unity Mecklenburg County here in North Carolina. And I actually had a question. So I went to this excellent tool, the voting tool where you can plan your vote out. And I want to know where they're pulling the information from, because I'm on there as correctly as a candidate, but they have like none of my picture's not there, my information's not there. So I want people to be able to see my face. It just says YT. So how do I fix that?
All right. You are going to shoot me a note, or you know what? I'm going to hook you up with Sarah, and Sarah will get it all taken care of. She will get the picture of your choice, make sure all your social media is there. Yes, that is what I love about ActiVote. I hope Sarah's still in the country. I know she's planning on a nice long trip to Australia, because Sarah is my go-to person there. Sarah gets an email and Sarah's literally on it within the hour. So we will get you hooked up. So
All right.
yes.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate Jocelyn and Rosalind, Eric, everybody on Team Unity here. We did have a great meeting, and those young people, they inspire me. And education is my jam, and working with young people. So really, really excited about the work that we're doing. Thank you.
All right. I love that. And as we are launching our Pledge to Vote and Do More, the whole goal behind that campaign is, number one, remind people big election. Number two, encourage people to do more. And as they sign up, we're working to build your email list, and we're working to build your volunteer list. When we did this back in 2020, we recruited 2,400 volunteers. So we would love to be able to recruit about the same number of people. We had volunteers that wanted to canvass. We had volunteers that wanted to drive people to the polls, all different kinds of things. So yes, 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 yes. All right. I see a question from one of our most active activists, Judith. What do you say to youth to change them from being non-voters to voters? I don't vote because my vote doesn't count, so I'm not going to bother.
So I think our strategy is to have young people speak to young people. I think we can, yes. So we can speak, we can tell them a thousand things about why they should vote, and we can talk about our ancestors and the issues at hand. But we are trusting that the message should come from their peers. And so that is the direction that we're taking here for Team Mecklenburg. We have a number of events in which some of our youth leaders are heading up, and they'll be there, including a listening session on January 1st in the form of a cookout. And they're really, they have, we're fortunate enough here in Charlotte to have several young community leaders who've been on the ground prior to 2024. They do lots of voter engagement. We have representatives from each of the major colleges here in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. So they're excited, and we're excited for them. They basically have said, leave it to them and they'll take care of it. So that's kind of where we are with that.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
One
Andrea,
of the things
I see that Katie Hickman asked a question about connecting youth activists from the democracy centers and the various team unity people to share like best practices and ideas. I can say that some of the young people that we're working with have full teams. So if we wanted to find a way to set up a Zoom where we can send out something with from multiple of these markets where we have the lead, the young people lead it to talk about what works. I think that is something that would be very well received. They have these guys are really, really on the ball.
What I was going to say is our National Phone Bank team leader has all young Black phone bankers, and I know they would certainly love to participate. And we will also be setting up youth phone banks where it will be young people calling other young people. So we think that could be something very, very helpful. And yes, Katie, we've got so many great ideas from the democracy centers, literally all over Virginia, South Carolina, Alabama. Folks have got really great ideas. They are using young people in Alabama. Our democracy centers are run by Omega Psi Phi. So they actually have the students on college campuses. We could even reach out to our college intern program and see if they would like to be included and see what kind of ideas we can have where everybody starts getting excited. Yes. All right. I see a couple of generic questions that are just for me. There was a question I saw, what do you say to older voters who say there is no point in voting? And I'm like, well, they better not be in Virginia, because if they're in Virginia, I tell them we lost control of the Virginia House of Delegates in 2017 by one vote. Would you have been that vote? So I mean, literally, in Virginia, we don't have runoff elections. One vote wins it. And the election was a tie. We had won 14 seats in the Virginia House outright. Seat number 15 was a tie. How did they resolve the tie? They pulled a name out of the fishbowl.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
one of the other questions was, what are we defining as youth? And yeah, this has been a topic of conversation between Andrea and I. For the purposes of this election, at least, we are defining youth as 18 to 30.
Yes. Yes. Anybody where I have shoes older than you, you're youth. Hey, we all have our methodologies. All right.
May I
Wow.
add something?
Yes, please.
Andrea, the question about, people who say there's no reason to vote, obviously there's the Virginia example, but also if we engage them and ask them what are the issues they care most about and get them to talk, which you can't do in a postcard, folks. So, phone banking is really important and canvassing. If they can open up and talk about the issues they care most about, then we can engage them on how those issues are affected by the people we vote for, not just the president, but all the way down the ballot. And that's an opportunity for voter education.
Yes, yes, yes. And one of the other things that we find is, yes, there are people who have stopped voting because they're discouraged. There are other people who aren't voting because they have challenges. I was speaking with the president of the North Carolina Disability Caucus yesterday, and she and I are going to be working on a plan where, how do we know where the disabled voters are, and we work together to make sure that they will be able to get to the polls, those people who are able to travel. And always in every election, a huge concern of mine will always be our senior voters who no longer drive, especially those in more rural areas. Okay, I'm going to stop. Oh, and Ms. Gay is here, and she is going yes to everything about the young people. Nancy, do you want to, or Carrie, walk through our postcard schedule, taking us all the way up to the general election? So we start planning an election literally in the day after the November election. We start working on the next year. So Nancy or Carrie, do you want to do postcard plans?
I can do it. I've got my little card here, my little low-tech device.
Hey, hey, that works. All right.
It works,
This is Carrie, and Carrie is one of the leaders of our postcard team. So Carrie, go ahead.
Thanks. So, so the North Carolina Pledge to Vote and Do More campaign that's already released early, and we're writing up until July 1st. And in June, meantime, we're going to be launching Florida campaign and Arizona campaign. And Arizona's small, 58,000 Black voters. So those addresses will probably be mostly taken by mountain states and a couple of neighboring Colorado and Southern California neighboring groups, but people are clamoring for them already. And Florida, I don't have the numbers, Nancy, maybe you do, or Andrea, but Florida's got—
It's going to be about 1.1 million.
Thank you. Yeah, so Florida launching at the same time. And then, so basically every couple of weeks, we're going to roll out at least one more campaign. Georgia, we're going to roll out on June 28th, Texas on July 19th, Virginia, August 2nd, North Carolina, Get Out the Vote, August 2nd. And, because it's a two-touch campaign, the Pledge to Vote is getting people organized and then follow up with a Get Out the Vote card later. Then South Carolina, August 16th, and Alabama September 13th. And the thing about this year, postcarding this year, is with the exception of North Carolina, we are writing and we are holding on to those cards. So we put them in a shoebox next to the door or whatever people need to do, or you return them to your organizer who can keep track. And then we're going to have a big mailing party, probably October 1st, depending how things are going with DeJoy and the postal delivery. It could possibly scooch a little earlier. We're discussing that, but October 1st to 15th is the approximate mail dates for most of these campaigns. Virginia will be earlier because they have the longer early voting period. And Alabama has no early voting, so we're going to be writing closer in to when we'll actually mail them. But so it's a write and hold. It's like, don't get all excited and write and put them in the mail 3 months early.
Right.
Right.
Only this, if you like to write and mail, then North Carolina Pledge to Vote, it's got your name all over it. It's
Right.
also one of our shortest scripts.
Yes, it is extremely short, but don't expect this brevity from other scripts. It looks like this is a sample card. And this is because part of the script will actually be, pre-printed with the county information. It will say, pledge to vote and do more, and sign the pledge here. And it has a link to ActiVote for information and a phone number for people who don't have the internet. So there's a whole lot of good stuff in that label. And but the writing will be very easy on this one. So you can crank out a whole bunch of them. Woo! Okay, we're big now.
All right. Yes.
All right.
Yes. People hid themselves. All right. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay.
Now, one thing that people may not realize about what happens when we do postcarding is for every county that is going to get a postcard, someone at Center for Common Ground on the postcard team is calling that county election office to make sure the phone number we put on the postcard rings on the desk of someone who can answer questions about elections. So there is a ton of back end work that goes in to what we're doing on postcards. So, all right. Nancy dropped the schedule in the chat, and everybody who's on this Zoom and everybody who's signed up, you are going to get the deck that I showed at the beginning. So you will have all of this information.
One
It
last little
was
thing I forgot to
right.
say. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Didn't mean to interrupt. Because this is an unusual campaign, people will look at it and go, pledge to vote. What is that? We have an explanation in the script document at the bottom where we usually have our volunteer information. And it's always a good place to look because there's a little bit of background information about the campaign and why we're doing what we're doing. But we also have a link to an additional flyer. So that gives some of the history of, this strategy and mentions Team Unity Georgia and mentions what we did in 2020. And so for people really wanting to understand what this is about, they'll have the ability to get a flyer. Those will be in the data room as well for those who wish them.
Oh, excellent. All right. Thank you, Carrie. And now
in the chat, Carrie, thank you.
Yes. And now I was going to say, oh, thank you, Nancy, for dropping that in. And now on phone banks, our phone banks for Georgia will be running tomorrow. They will be running from 9 a.m. and we're going to shut them off a little early. We're going to shut them off at 5 because early voting is going to end roughly then. Actually, we'll probably shut them off at 3 and then we will be switching to Virginia. if you have never phone banked with us, it is a very different experience than most other organizations. We leave messages. Our voters are very, very glad we call. In many instances, they take the time to call us back and thank us. So thank you for joining us tonight. We were very, very excited for you to really get an opportunity to meet some of our partners, and happy Thursday. So take care, everybody.